Podcast City Network.
Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show. A shot of entertainment to the head. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the entertainment.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Everett Lee Show podcast. I am the Everett Lee. Quick shout out to everyone that follows me on Twitter. You can follow me at the Everett Lorescore Lee, Facebook.com/the Everett Lee. Click that thumbs up. And of course, Podcast City Network, the official host of the Everett Lee Show. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back with a new podcast this week. I didn't do nothing last week because here, working behind the scenes on Podcast City Network, I was getting everything ready for that 2-day stream that we did here on twitch.tv/Podcast City Network. I want to thank everyone that tuned in and watched the podcast of the 2-day event on Friday morning all the way up until the afternoon, and on Saturday evening all the way into the way early, almost mornings. But I just want to thank everyone that tuned into it, shared, and supports all the shows on Podcast City Network. And I want to give a shout out to all the shows on Podcast City Network for everything that you do by killing it every single week for this network and for your fans and just in general. You guys rock. But let's get on to the podcast tonight. I have a great upcoming future great wrestling entertainer and great in-ring talent. I don't know what else to say because I was talking with him right before we went live, telling him about how great and how I enjoyed his matches and everything. I want to welcome to the program tonight none other than Jacob Rose. How you doing, Jacob?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, how's your week been?
It's been long. It's been very long, but we're pushing through it.
That's good. That's good. You get any bad weather up there? Because we've been getting bad weather down here in Florida. It's been raining all day today, just about.
We were supposed to. It was supposed to rain all day Tuesday, today, and tomorrow, but thankfully it kind of just went away. Missed us, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy because they were talking about getting like a tropical depression. It's supposed to be coming up through here by Friday. I can't really tell too much of a difference. It's like normal rainy Florida weather. I can never tell, you know. And speaking of weather and stuff, I know you're from Ohio. Did you grow up there? Whereabouts did you grow up at?
I actually grew up in Eaton, Ohio for pretty much my entire childhood. I moved from Richmond, Indiana at about first grade, then stayed here all the way up until now.
Oh, wow. So pretty much Ohio native, Buckeye.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? You a Buckeye fan?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Occasionally I run into some Buckeyes down here in Florida, and I ran into one the other day talking about Michigan, and I said, "Oh, I know about that because I spent 5 years up there, and I know about the Michigan and the Ohio State and the Michigan rivalry right there. I mean, it's like down here, it's like Florida and Tennessee. When I lived in Tennessee, it was Tennessee and the Tennessee Volunteers and Florida Gators. They hate each other, man. And I'm like, yeah, it reminds me of Ohio and Michigan.
My favorite thing is when Ohio State and Michigan's close to playing, everyone loses their mind, and I love it.
Yeah, I remember those days, man, when I was up there, man. Yeah, they just lose their minds over it. They pretty much do. When did you start watching wrestling? What age did you get into watching it?
I can't really think of the math right off the top of my head, but I do know the very first program I saw was SummerSlam of 2008, and I fell in love with it ever since then.
Oh, nice. SummerSlam 2008. I'm trying to remember. That was a pretty good year. with what was going on. Was it the rivalry with Randy Orton and John Cena at the time? I'm trying to remember right there, or was it?
Batista and John Cena were they were feuding. I'm pretty sure that's when Cena he took a Batista bomb on the hard part of the ring near the corner, kind of messed up his neck.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I remember that right there because in 2007 I kind of dipped off for a while there watching wrestling because a lot of other things going on though, but eventually I did get back into it, and so I did miss pretty much a good chunk of from 2008 till about 2013, but thank God for the WWE Network because I went back and I got to watch some of the great stuff that happened, especially like with the great rivalry with John Cena and CM Punk and how that went about. And, of course, Batista. I thought that was crazy, that rivalry right there with Batista, man, because he's like, yo, laugh at me, I'm going to quit. And he's whining in the ring. That was some crazy stuff.
He's a character. He's definitely a character.
Oh yeah, he definitely is. He definitely is. Now watching it at that time and stuff, did you ask yourself anything? Asking yourself, I want to do this. I want to do what they're doing.
Oh yeah, every match it just sparked my interest more and more. And then by the time the main event happened, I watched Undertaker and Edge go at it in Hell in a Cell, and I was like, you know what? I could get into this. I could see myself doing this one day. And it just kind of stuck with me ever since.
Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, Edge and Undertaker. Edge was one of my favorites back during the Attitude Era when I was watching it around when I was a senior in high school. Edge, the mystique of Edge and everything and how he evolved was just great, man, because he had some great matches with some great opponents, especially like the Undertaker stuff. And along that time, you loved him or hate him. He was good or bad. He was with the fans or the fans were against him. And that was some good stuff right there, especially Triple H, what was going on with Triple H too.
Yeah, I growing up, I didn't really care for Edge just because, he's the bad guy. Everyone wants to be the bad guy. And then as I grew older, I respected him more. I understood it more, and I loved him near the end of his career. And I loved watching him and Taker go at it.
Yeah, that was a good rivalry right there. That definitely was a good one right there with him and Taker because they had some dragged out matches, and especially with the World Heavyweight title going back and forth. That was just fantastic time. That definitely was. Now, with you wanting to be a wrestler and being a fan and wanting to get into it, and where did you get trained at? How'd you go about doing that to get trained?
I was actually trained with Cody Hawk. I remember the first time I heard about him. I was talking to one of the employees at Anytime Fitness, and we were talking about wrestling and how I wanted to get into it. And he's like, you know what? There's a guy that works out here. He's a wrestler too. And he was there at the time, thankfully, and he called him over. We talked a little bit, and he told me, he's like, yeah, look up Cody Hawk on Facebook, great trainer, all this. So I looked him up, made an appointment to go train with him, and honestly, I couldn't imagine being trained by anyone else. He's such an amazing teacher, and I've learned everything I know from him.
Nice. How was it for the first time getting into a ring and taking your first bump?
Absolutely terrifying. It's something that you think about your entire life, thinking, oh, I want to be a wrestler. I can't wait to get in the ring. And then you finally get the opportunity to get in the ring, and you're like, holy crap, I'm actually about to do this. And then taking that first bump it's an eye opener. Definitely an eye opener.
I've heard a lot of stories about taking your first bump, and I've heard there's times where athletes like high schoolers that played football, oh, I could get in the ring, I could do this, And when they get in there and they take their first bump, they're like, nope, this ain't for me.
Oh yeah, it's a lot harder than you would imagine.
Hey, I can imagine, but I just hearing that from different takes and just from everyone about taking their first bump in the ring. It's just like, yeah, it's just I love hearing that. Just everyone's story about that. Now, how long did you train? Have you trained, or you trained with Cody Hawk there?
I still train. You know, you can't do any, or I'm sorry. It doesn't hurt to get back in the ring and train. It just, you get better each and every time. So I've been training for probably about 2 years now, I'd say.
Okay. Now, being in the ring, training with Cody. Now, who's some of your influences? Just, being in the ring there, because I was watching your matches, and while I was watching your matches, I can tell that some of your moves that you use and stuff, it reminds me of almost a little bit of cruiserweight. I don't know how I would say it, but a little bit of cruiserweight with lucha libre, because a lot of high flying kicks and enziguris and stuff. Who influenced you? Who's like someone that you like to, almost mimic in the ring as?
I kind of like the style of Shawn Michaels. Like, I grew up watching him, so I was just like, I loved him the entire time, and I kind of picked up a few things from him, like getting up, jumping off the top rope. You love to see people fly. CM Punk was a big one. That's why I don't do the running knee in the corner, but I'll do a running clothesline in the corner, followed out with a bulldog. Kind of took the whole knee in the corner, bulldog. There's just, I take apart like a bunch of wrestlers, and I just kind of think I can do this, or I would like to put my own take on this. It's just a lot of different people's moves that I just try and push into my moveset.
Nice. I noticed that in the matches I watched with you. You did that running clothesline in the corner, and then you came out with the bulldog. And when that happened, I'm like, nice. I was like, that's nice, man. I love that running bulldog, because I love that combination, how you followed it up there with doing that there. It's awesome, man. It definitely is awesome. And
I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But being trained by Cody Hawk and learning everything in the ring, and what promotions have you worked for, or have you went out to work for any other promotions?
Well, obviously I've worked for Future Great Wrestling, but I've also worked for World's Finest Wrestling over in Connorsville, Indiana. I've worked for Merge. I've worked for LSC. I did one match for CWAI before we switched over, and I think that's the only companies that I've worked for so far.
Okay. And of course, you mentioned Future Great Wrestling. You mentioned that. How is that working for that promotion there? Because looking on their YouTube, and a lot of people that has put up matches from Future Great Wrestling, and that's where I found a lot of your matches that's on there. What is it like working for the promotion?
It's amazing. It really is. We've got amazing fans. We've got a lot of fans that come every single week. It's nothing but familiar faces every time. So they know you. They know your music. They know your moves. I love the people backstage. Like, it's such an amazing atmosphere there. I love it. We have such an amazing arena. It's nice.
That's awesome. I love it. I noticed that because the fans really get into the matches there at Future Great Wrestling, especially with you. With the matches I watched, I've jotted down three of the matches that I enjoyed was with you and Douglas Anderson, Andrews. Excuse me, you and Douglas Andrews. That was great, because just being in the ring there and just going back and forth and how the crowd was right behind you. I noticed that in a lot of these 3 matches right here that I jotted down, that the crowd gets behind you, man, and they love it, and they eat it up, and they don't like the bad guys that go up against you, man. They don't like them. They do not like them.
Yeah, it's just I think they started getting behind me once I would get in the ring for security. We would do some things, and they ever since then they noticed me then. So watching me transition from a security guard to a wrestler, they pretty much watched me grow in the business. So I think that helped me a lot with how they react to me, and it's nice to have them behind me.
That is awesome. That is good. That is good. You're a fan favorite, and I love that. I love that. Another in the match, Steve Anderson. You wrestled against him, and that was great. There, another fan favorite. People behind you, and booing Steve, and just cheering for you, man. Cheering for you. And there's Kid Bullet. When you went up against him, we were talking about that. Some of the stuff was just right. It was like when you go to an event, or you're going to be in an event, and the card could change at the last minute, and you didn't know you were going to be facing him, and some of the stuff that you guys had to do in the ring, you had to do it on the fly.
Yeah, we I think it was called Ruthless Roulette or something like that. But they put all of our names in a little basket, and the fans would pick out our names. So we didn't know anything until our names were drawn from that bucket. So as soon as my name was called, I was like, all right, well, I guess it's my time to go out there. So thankfully I was the first match, so I didn't have to anticipate too much. That's
good. That's good. And that's pretty interesting, man. That's pretty interesting concept right there. I like that. Who runs? If anyone who's not familiar with Future Great Wrestling, who is behind Future Great Wrestling there?
Brian LK. He is the owner.
Okay. And I know Cody Hawk, he's a part of it too, because I know like the 5 Most Wanted and Shauna Reed, I've seen her doing some stuff there too. I've seen some videos that I was going over, and I'm gonna have to go back again because there's a lot of great wrestling with a lot of great talent that I've seen, and I'm just going through. I haven't watched all the matches, or just about, just everything, because I'm looking at the names and I said, this sounds good. I need to click on it and I need to check this out. And of course, I know when Future Great Wrestling started up, Robin Nelson of Wrestle Podcast drawed some attention and tried to help it out, because they're in Future Great Wrestling's in Hamilton, right?
Yes.
There were some problems with having Future Great Wrestling there in Hamilton, because it had to go to the city, because there was something going on with a retirement home across the street, and they didn't want wrestling there, and a lot of stuff happened, and the city went in favor of Future Great Wrestling and got wrestling right there in Hamilton, and it's been amazing, hasn't it, with all the fans coming in?
We definitely had a lot of support with the fans, and we even had a lot of people from the city that were on our side, but we ended up on a 90-day probation period, and we had to follow all these rules. We had to have a cop outside the event the entire time, but thankfully we prevailed. We got through it, and we are still here today, so I'm very thankful for all of that.
I am too. I'm glad it all worked out, and I'm glad that everything went in favor, and you bring some great entertainment. When does Future Great Wrestling run shows? Is it every Friday or Saturday, or every other Friday and Saturday, or what's the schedule there?
It is every Friday night. Doors open at 7:30.
Nice. Nice. And you got what events or upcoming shows does Future Great Wrestling have lined up?
Friday, actually, August 2nd, we have our big show. Future Great Wrestling presents We Got Heat. We've got some fantastic matches on that. I believe we just added a tar and feather match. We've got a casket match, a lumberjack match, and we've got Brian LK in a match against Jonah Wales. And if Jonah wins, then the code takes over for good. FGW loses the company. And if Brian wins, then the code is done. They're out of power. We get everything back, and it's going to be an amazing show.
Nice. That is awesome. That is awesome there. So it's Friday night, August 2nd at 7:30 p.m. there in Hamilton, Ohio. We Got Heat. I'm looking at the flyer right there, and I got it up here on the screen there for people viewing the live stream right now there, everyone. And the code. I noticed that right there. I noticed the code. What is the code? Is it kind of like a takeover, like an NWO takeover?
Yeah, pretty much. They the Mark Magnum had been trying to shut us down ever since we started, and then finally we got through the probation, and he still wasn't going to stop, and then Jackson Breeze ended up being behind it. He was pretty much the leader of the code. He was the one that was calling all the shots. So now they are actually in charge of the company right now. So hopefully Friday FGW gets it back. But as of right now, the code is in charge of everything.
Oh no, that's not good. That's not good. And I hope Future Great Wrestling gets it back, man. I hope it takes it back over. That's pretty interesting. I like that because I noticed I haven't really checked it out that much lately. And then when I went on there and I was pulling up stuff for you, I noticed I said the code. I was like, what is the code? I got to ask him that because I noticed it's all over the place there on their Facebook page. So, but yeah, I just was interested in that right there. Now, we were talking earlier about WWE and 2008 SummerSlam and stuff. Are you pretty? Do you keep up with the current product right now?
I try my best to. I've heard things here and there, but like I hardly ever watch SmackDown. I'll watch the pay-per-view. I've actually missed the past 2 weeks of Raw. I haven't really seen anything on that. But I do my best on keeping up with current wrestling events. Okay.
All I got to say is you haven't missed much on Raw. You haven't missed much.
That's what I've heard.
You haven't. I know Paul Heyman. I know this past Monday it was a heavily influenced Raw, but the best part of Raw happened about the last 30 minutes of it. And
really?
Yeah, that was basically it. I mean, if you go on YouTube, you can look up a recap and you'll see. And they finally built some story for SummerSlam. For SummerSlam. Okay. I know SummerSlam's like a couple weeks out or a week or something like that. But it just... Because right before we went live tonight, I told you, I said I was sitting there watching Raw, and I turned around, I got on the computer here, and I started watching your matches. And honestly, I was more entertained by your matches than watching Monday Night Raw. That's
fantastic. I will absolutely take that.
Yeah, because it was just... It just wasn't... I couldn't get into it. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I want to get into it. I just could not get into it. So I turn around on the computer, and I'm like, I got Jacob Rose coming up on Wednesday. I'm going to pull up his matches. So I pulled up some more of your matches, and I watched them. I sat here, and I watched them, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, you know what? I'm not falling asleep watching Monday Night Raw. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching the matches, and then SmackDown. I mean, Raw and SmackDown right now. I don't know if you heard, Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff came back, and Bischoff's running things behind SmackDown now, and Heyman's running things behind Raw.
I was happy to hear that they were back. I was hoping things would change. I heard that a little bit has changed on Raw, but not a lot. But I've heard SmackDown's kind of still taking the bomb down. I did hear that the whole Bray Wyatt coming back, I heard his new gimmick was fantastic, and people were loving that. But that's pretty much the only good thing going right now.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the new gimmick actually, because his mask was created by a horror icon in the horror film industry. I forget his name though, but he was in movies like the original, like Dawn of the Dead. You ever seen Desperado? Or not Desperado? No, scratch that. Dusk Till Dawn with George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino.
I actually haven't seen that.
Okay, there's a guy in the part, and those viewing right now probably know what I'm talking about. They've seen it. There's a guy who had like this in the bar there, the vampire bar, and he has like this gun like strapped to his crotch. That's the guy. He's played in a lot of movies. Seriously, this guy has a gun strapped to his crotch, Jacob, and it pops out and it shoots. It's hilarious. But that guy right there was the guy who created the mask for Bray Wyatt, and I love it. The Fiend, you probably seen that on Twitter with his new look.
Yeah, I've seen the mask and I love it.
I do too.
I think it's definitely a good change for him.
Oh yeah. And one thing I'm excited about with SummerSlam, I want to see the Demon versus the Fiend. The Demon.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's going to be great. Now, who would your pick be? You have the Demon, Finn Balor, going up against the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. Who would your pick be?
I want to say the Fiend just because he's got a lot of steam going into it, and I would hate for all of it to just crash down instantly. Like he's building momentum. He needs to keep this momentum.
He does. That's my pick right there. I love Finn Balor. I love everything he's done. I love the Demon gimmick, but when it comes to Bray Wyatt building him back up and having him attack people, especially attacking Mick Foley like he did last week on the Raw reunion, and put the Manimal Claw on him, you're going to build this guy up, and then you're going to let Balor beat him? Come on. Bray, that's my pick right there, man. That's my pick right there.
I'm right there with you.
That's awesome. One thing with promotions and stuff and like current wrestling and stuff, everything going on with wrestling, AEW. What are your thoughts? I've asked everyone this on from talent to promoters. And what is your thoughts on AEW coming in and shaking things up in the wrestling industry and just people taking notice? What's your thoughts on AEW?
I think it's absolutely fantastic. I love everything about it. I love everything they're doing with it. There's nothing but fantastic stars on there. You've got Jon Moxley. You've got Jericho, Cody Rhodes. It's nothing but amazing talent. They're obviously doing something right. I love it.
I love it too. I got to watch here in Daytona Beach. I got to watch the Fyter Fest. It was right here in my own backyard. Of course, I'm going to go. I mean, it's AEW.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to it last year. It was the CEO gaming convention, but it was with New Japan Wrestling. So this year, when they said they announced AEW, I'm in, man. I am all in. No pun intended. So I went. I had a pretty good time. The crowd was into it. One thing I did notice is they are attracting new fans, because there were some people in the crowd when I was there for that event, noticing like Jungle Boy and just in the ring there. It's like, who's that? That's Jungle Boy. Who's Jungle Boy? Oh, that's Luke Perry's son. Oh, yeah, I remember Luke Perry from 90210. Okay, there you go. You got someone interested. And then MJF. Who's this guy yelling at everyone in the ring? And it's like, that's MJF. And I think he's fantastic, man. He's their top heel in that company right now.
Oh, absolutely.
He can rip into the crowd, man. He can rip into the crowd. And if you ever get a chance, go on YouTube and look up the interview or the podcast that Steve Austin did with MJF. MJF, total character through the whole podcast. It's freaking fantastic, man.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I love MJF.
Yeah, he's fantastic. MJF is with AEW. I think that's awesome. And I know that he worked with MLW here in Orlando. He's worked with that promotion, and having him on the AEW roster is just another fantastic addition to their ever building roster there. Did you check out the Fighter Fest and Fight for the Fallen? Did you check that out?
Yeah, I watched a few matches off of it. I watched the Cody Rhodes match. I watched John Moxley's match. I watched MJF's match. I didn't get to catch the entire event though.
Yeah. John Moxley. What do you think about that? John Moxley. He's fantastic, ain't he? I'm glad he's back.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad he's back. I mean, Ambrose is gone. Rest in peace. I mean, he even said it on Jericho's podcast. He was miserable for a long time, and him being Moxley and being able to doing whatever he does. I mean, what's your take on John Moxley there?
I think it's great. I think the best thing that he could have done was leave WWE and bring back John Moxley. I think AEW is doing a great job with him, letting him do pretty much whatever he wants. Like, he's got an actual say now. I think it's fantastic. It's good for him.
It is. And
it seems like he's actually enjoying it too. So.
Yeah, he definitely is. And of course, I mean, Cody and Dustin, that right there, when they had their match against each other at Double or Nothing, and then them teaming up at Fight for the Fallen. How did you check out that match there with them and the Brotherhood against the Young Bucks?
Yeah.
That was.
I loved their match at Double or Nothing, and I loved seeing them team up.
Yeah, I mean, it was just fantastic with both of those, with both Cody and Dustin. Seeing them both in the ring again. I mean, when was the last time we seen both of them team up? That was back when they were both in WWE.
Oh yes, the whole Stardust gimmick, him and Stardust and Goldust. That was a pretty nice chunk ago.
Yeah. It definitely was. It definitely was. That Stardust gimmick, I know Cody was pretty much over that because he wanted to go back to being Cody Rhodes, and not Stardust after the great American Dream passed away, their father. And I mean, what he's doing now and what he's done and what he's going to do with AEW is going to be fantastic. How are you excited and hyped up for October 2nd to see AEW on TNT?
Oh, absolutely. They're definitely making an impact, and they're making an impact fast.
They are. They're definitely making an impact. I mean, a lot of everyone's favorites, from Jim Ross to, like we mentioned, Jericho, to Cody, to Dustin. Everyone's over there basically. I mean, what would you think if eventually you'd see like someone like leave WWE and head over to AEW? We'll say like a Sasha Banks having a chance. That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I think Sasha's, for example, she's a great worker. So I think her going over to AEW would be good for her, especially since when was the last time we saw her on WWE television? At least they would do something with her. Like, it's just, there's so many talent on the WWE roster that they're just not doing anything with. Whereas I'm sure AEW could find something for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they can find something. They could definitely find something. I was shocked when I seen Awesome Kong show up. I was shocked on that there to see her show up, man. And Allie who was over on Impact.
I remember when Awesome Kong debuted for WWE, and she did what, 2 or 3 events there, and then they pretty much let her go.
Yeah, they pretty much. Yeah, they pretty much. But she's done well. I mean, she did great. She did great Impact, and she also, I mean, she's doing great on the Netflix original show Glow. She's done great there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you caught that there?
I've watched, I think, season 1 of Glow.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty.
I enjoyed it.
I enjoy it too. Season 3 is going to be starting up here on August 9th. I showed my wife tonight. I showed her the trailer of it, and she was like, "No way." I said, "Yep." I said, "It's coming back, man. It's coming back on August 9th. It's just great because it's based off of the original Glow, the back during the 80s. What I barely remember of. I was young when I remember that. I mean, I've had I was a guest on Deathmatch Wrestle podcast, and he had Sunny California Girl on there, which, I mean,
really,
yeah, fantastic interview. And then of course there was with Robin Nelson. He's had quite a bit of the Glow girls on there, just talking and stuff. And I mean, with basically everything that, if you watch the documentary, Netflix had a documentary on it was Glow, and it's talked about everything that went on with Glow. And I think that if it's still on there, I'd definitely check it out, because there's stuff that happened that a lot of people didn't know happened behind the scenes and what went on with the show and everything.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, you definitely have to check it out there, because it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Have you, besides wrestling and working for Future Great Wrestling, is there anything that Jacob Rose does outside the ring? Anything that you're into that you like doing beside when you're away from the ring? What does Jacob Rose like to do?
All I really have time to do is work, train, wrestle, and sleep. That's all I really have time to do. I enjoy, just the basics, being with friends, doing whatever the heck I can get my hands into. But there's just not as much that I do that I would like to do.
Right.
So if it's not working or wrestling, it's sleep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're committed to wrestling. You're committed to your craft. That's fantastic. I want to commemorate you on that right there. That's great, because you want to learn, and you just want to continue and just be the best that you can. And if anyone came up to you and asked, it's like, I want to be a wrestler, what would you tell them?
Follow your dreams. Do it. I did it. I did it, and I'm the happiest that I've been in a very long time. So if this is what makes you happy, absolutely do it.
Nice. That's good advice there. I like that. I definitely like that. And before we wrap up this podcast here, I want to ask you, where can people find you on social media at?
I have Twitter. It is Jacob Rose FGW, and my Instagram is Jacob Rose 98, and then Facebook, obviously. is Jacob Rose.
Nice. And I want to throw this in here before we do close. Any words for your opponent or who you're going to face on August 2nd?
I have no idea. So if you want to find out, watch it on either watch it online or come to the show and see who it is.
Nice. Thank you for taking time out tonight and coming on here on the Everett Lee Show. And I want to mention before I wrap this up here that you can follow more Podcast C Network over on podcastc.net, and you can hit them up on Facebook, Podcast C Network. Hit that thumbs up, and of course on Twitter, send a tweet to them at podcastcnet. Subscribe to Podcast C Network on YouTube there, and you can check out episodes of the Everett Lee Show and much more content. And right here on twitch.tv/Podcast C Network, hit that follow button for the latest live streams right here on Podcast City Network. And you can follow more of the Everett Lee Show right here on Facebook. Hit that like and thumbs up, and send a tweet to Everett Lee at the Everett _ Lee. Instagram, Everett Lee Show, and follow and subscribe Everett Lee Show on YouTube for audio portions of this podcast. And you can get more audio portion of this podcast and previous release podcast over at Stitcher Radio. Download that app for your smartphone and tablet, iTunes, Podbeam, and that's about it for the Everett Lee Show. And again, Jacob Rose, thank you for coming on tonight and talking with me. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you have lined up in the future for future great wrestling.
Well, thank you for having me, man. It was a pleasure.
No problem. Everett Lee signing off. Everyone, have a good night, and thank you for tuning in on this podcast. And I will see you again next week for another episode of the Everett Lee Show. Peace.